Hello everybody, how are you? David and Franco here from GearPop.com. Check it out if you're interested in running for the GearPop blog, or even just submitting your photos of your computer setup, iPod collection, desktop wallpaper, all that good stuff over at GearPop.com/gallery. And yes, as always, there are plenty of products and discounts to find throughout GearPop.com. So check it out, I greatly appreciate it. Alright, so getting to the point of today's video, I am going to review the first generation of the OUYA. Now, for those that are aware, the OUYA is basically an indie video game box made possible by the community and their funds. So I gotta say, this is definitely a one-of-a-kind device and a sign of future devices to come. As well as maybe some other side projects that are happening right now and that have already been released. I'm not really interested in those because, in my opinion, this is definitely the one to keep an eye on because it has the most support behind it, as far as I can tell. Okay, so getting into the review itself, as you guys know by now, I like to break my reviews down into pros and cons, and finally the verdict at the end of whether this product is worth purchasing. So starting out with the pros, pro number one, I gotta say, the OUYA, for what it is, it's unique, and I appreciate its small form factor. I mean, it really doesn't get in the way. Like I said in my unboxing, I think of this as, at least in terms of size reference, it's kind of like a squared out baseball, and you can hold it with one hand. Now, you don't want to be throwing this thing around. I mean, you can if you want. It's light enough, and it's solid enough. It doesn't really feel that cheap. But you get my point. It's small and portable, and basically, if you want to take this over to a friend's house and hook it up to their TV, then you can, with no problem at all. The second pro that I would like to talk about is the fact that the OUYA does indeed run Android. This is especially important to keep in mind for the indie developers out there. This basically means because Android is open source and because this platform is open source, at least to some extent, yes, you can develop your own games on the OUYA console. Alright, so obviously I don't develop video games myself, but still, seeing the make option in the main menu, I thought that was pretty cool. Pro number three, you have hundreds upon hundreds of titles to choose from. I don't think you'll ever have a problem finding a game to keep you busy. Let's just say that. That basically sums up the OUYA game library. Pro number four, everything, and I mean everything, is free to try. Whether you want to try out a $15 game for an hour or a $1 game for an hour, the OUYA lets you try every single game for completely free. And this, in my opinion, is an excellent business model. Because how many times have you spent $1 or $2 or even $5 or $10 on an iOS or Android app, and then a day or two later you're like, wait a minute, that's it? I just spent all that money for this? This is crap. Thankfully, that is not a problem whatsoever with the OUYA, because a great example of this is I tried out a game called Bomb Squad, very fun if you're looking for a game to try, and they gave you an hour to play it. I used up the full hour, and honestly, I didn't expect to play it for more than 10 minutes, but the game was addicting. So, yeah, like I said, I hit the 1 hour limit and asked me if I wanted to buy it for $5. I did. Boom. There you go. Excellent business model. It's great for the app developers out there because people get to try their apps for completely free, and it's great for the consumer/customer like us because we get to try games for free and see whether it's worth $1, $2, or even $15. This is just a huge deal, and I really hope this is a sign of the future. Pro number five, apps. Now, I didn't expect this, but the OUYA actually does have apps. This isn't just a gaming box. I mean, if you want to put a big-ass clock up on your TV, you can. If you want to make it rain and simulate a rainstorm on your TV as if it's happening outside, you can. If you want to put an alarm on your TV, you can. And it doesn't stop there. I'm sure there's plenty of screensavers and many other gimmicky apps. I mean, honestly, I'm never really going to use apps that often, but I gotta say, it was a nice surprise to see that there's not just games on a gaming console. Because guys, you know me by now, I don't like limiting one platform to just doing one thing. For instance, my Xbox One, why should it just play games? Why should my PS4 just play games? I mean, it's 2014, why limit a product to just one kind of approach? It doesn't make sense. But the OUYA is proof of this. Alright, let's talk pro number 6, and yes, there are a lot of pros. This actually isn't that bad of a product. I'll talk about that in my cons, but anyway, pro number 6, push to my OUYA, it's called. Now, this is a great feature. You could literally just go to OUYA.tv, sign into your OUYA account, OUYA, I know I'm probably saying that wrong, some people are probably getting mad. relax. Find a game that you like and say push to my OUYA, and boom, it downloads to your OUYA console automatically. Now, this isn't anything revolutionary new. You can already do this on other consoles and with other games. But still, the fact that it is on the OUYA and there are so many games to search for, guys, let's just be honest, it's easier to find games on your Mac or PC, you know, just with a search field, an actual keyboard, and then just push it via the cloud. I'm guessing it's via the cloud, or maybe it's not. Either way, it works pretty well. And finally, pro number 7, this is definitely very important to many people. Third-party controllers are supported. Because guys, I gotta tell you, the OUYA controller, at least in terms of version 1 anyway, is okay at best. I'll talk about that in my list of cons. But you can play the OUYA using third-party controllers, such as the DualShock 3, I believe the Xbox 360 controller, as well as some other controllers. But the best thing to do is just go to Google and type OUYA third-party controllers to see a full official list. Okay, so while I just praised the crap out of the OUYA, there are a few cons worth mentioning, and I gotta say a few major cons at that. Because let's be honest, guys, the OUYA is version 1 of a fairly unique approach on gaming, so there's guaranteed some things to go wrong here and there. And starting out with con number 1, I gotta say, this runs Android, which is pretty cool, but as of today, as of January, whatever, 2014, whenever you're watching this, the interface is laggy and fragmented. Now, the lagginess I can kind of get past because you're not going to be in the menus for too much because this is a gaming console, so you're going to be spending most of your time playing games. But when you are in the menus, I gotta say, it is disappointingly laggy because you guys know me, I like a good interface, I like a good experience, I like smoothness. And unfortunately, this is not the case with the OUYA. It still has a long way to go, but I gotta say, it's a decent start. However, definitely something I found very annoying is the fragmented user interface, otherwise known as showing Android. Now, I gotta say, I was never really a big fan of the settings menu in Android back when I had my Kindle Fire and Nexus 7. I've always thought it was ugly. I'm not sure what the designers were on when they designed it. And then, unfortunately, I saw that same exact settings menu interface on my TV, on the OUYA. Why? Now, I understand this runs Android, which again, is really cool. I appreciate that. But you should not be seeing Android user interface elements on your TV. You should be seeing a user interface specifically designed for this, the OUYA console, not an Android device such as a phone or a tablet. Now, I do understand this is version 1 of the OUYA, so perhaps this will change over time. Well, at least I hope it does. But OUYA developers or OUYA creators, whatever, if you're watching this video, please take my note in mind. We do not want to see Android user interface elements on our TVs. It just doesn't make sense. Con number 2, and that's the controller. Now, the controller works well, but it's far, far, far from being amazing and or perfect. Number 1, it is very cheap feeling. The triggers, they feel like they're sticking a bit, and if you listen, it just sounds cheap. These shoulder buttons actually don't feel that bad. The sticks feel cheap, but the clicking sounds nice. The D-pad is way too soft. It needs more of a clicky feeling. The touchpad, I haven't really used it much in games yet, but from what I can see, it's not getting much use. The face buttons do feel a little too raised and a little too clicky. And finally, in terms of the design, changing batteries on this thing is odd. You actually have to remove, see, it's just frustrating, the face plates. There it goes. To change the batteries. Now, I gotta say, it's a unique approach, and it's actually kind of cool opening the controller, but to the end user, it's just frustrating. There has to be a better way of going about this. Now, thankfully, the OUYA developers have already come out and said the version 2 of the OUYA controller will be significantly better, so I'm very interested and excited to see what kind of improvements they make. Okay, so aside from the actual aesthetics of the controller, the cons do not stop there, unfortunately. There is no rumble in this, which is a major disappointment. I've always loved the rumble in controllers since the early days of the N64 with Star Fox 64. But then again, perhaps this doesn't have rumble functionality because of patents. Patents. I always say that word weird. So I really can't fault OUYA for that. That's obviously stuff that goes on behind closed doors. And as far as I know, we don't have proof of why this doesn't have rumble. But with that said, I do hope version 2 of this controller has rumble. Please make it happen. And finally, last but certainly not least in terms of cons about the controller, I actually experienced some latency, which did affect my gameplay. For example, I was playing Bomb Squad for at least a good hour or two, and then I paused the game and checked my iPad or got some food, I don't know. I came back to it about 10 minutes later or so, and suddenly my button inputs were registering maybe like a second or two later. And with a game like Bomb Squad, that's just unacceptable. I'm really not sure what the problem was there. I mean, this does work via Bluetooth, and I've never had any real latency issues with other Bluetooth video game controllers, such as my DualShock 4, so I'm guessing this is fixable, but as of right now, it's definitely mildly annoying. I put in these faceplates back on. It's easy to put on, it's just kind of difficult to take off. And now for my last con number 3, there's a lot of crap out there. Now, this goes for any platform that has tons of apps. I mean, the iPhone, probably 80% of apps suck. Probably 80% of Android apps, well, they're just terrible. And that is the same exact case with the OUYA. Now, thankfully, the OUYA interface is pretty well designed in terms of discoverability, because right there on the home screen, you can see apps or games that the OUYA developers themselves recommend. So that's pretty cool, and I gotta say, that's actually how I found out about Bomb Squad, because I believe it was on the homepage, and I saw it on their website too. So with that said, definitely keep in mind, if you want to find good games, you're going to have to go through the Discover tab or whatever. Just don't waste your time scrolling through hundreds upon hundreds of titles. It's actually kind of like Netflix. There's a lot of bad movies out on Netflix, but there's also a lot of good movies on Netflix. You just got to know where and how to look. Okay, so that ends my pros and cons portion of the video. I do want to give a quick shout out to the developers of Bomb Squad, because that is my game of choice so far. It's a great game. It costs just $5, and like I said, you do get a 1-hour trial. So if you own an OUYA, definitely try it out. And I believe Bomb Squad might be available on the Mac as well. I'm not entirely sure, but it is available on the OUYA, so that's obviously a good thing. Okay, so rounding out my review of the first generation OUYA console, what is the verdict? Is it worth it? Maybe. I mean, I gotta say, it's a $99 investment, which is not much at all. I mean, that's the price of an Apple TV. I mean, at least in my eyes, that's not a lot of money for a video game console, especially when you have access to hundreds upon hundreds of games and it hooks up to your TV. It's just the ultimate convenient little gaming box. That's what you want to call it. The only thing that may hold you back is the poorly designed controller. Maybe there's not enough good games out there, or maybe you're just not a fan of the Android interface or Android platform in general. But I gotta say, it is a decent start as of today, and I am really, really excited about version 2 of the OUYA. Just like the Wii U, the PlayStation 4, and the Xbox One, it honestly comes down to the games. If there are games on the platform that you'll think you'll enjoy, then go for it. It's no different with the OUYA. And there you go, my review of the first generation of the OUYA video game console. As of today, I think I'm liking it enough. It's not amazing, it obviously has a very long way to go, but still, it is definitely a decent start with a unique approach. And of course, if you are interested in buying the OUYA for yourself, the link to Amazon or GearPop, whichever, is right below. So guys, let me know what you think of the OUYA. Do you own one? Or did you used to own one and you returned it because you hated it? Because I realize there are some very, very mixed reviews out there, which goes without saying. But still, if you have used an OUYA, just let me know in the comments below. Are you loving it? Are you hating it? And what kind of improvements would you like to see from it? As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Your support is amazing. I hope you're having an awesome start to the new year, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.